Welcome to the Train Your Brain podcast. We are your hosts, Ed and Brittany Holmes, and we've got some good stuff for you.
Yeah, we run a company called Axios, and we're on a mission to do two things. Help you realize that you can create and live a fulfilling and high-demand life that doesn't stress you out and doesn't lead to burnout. And second, that if you learn how to relate to the everyday stressors of life better, and tackle the stories you have about yourself in the world that are actually the biggest causes of stress, stress will become your greatest gift in creating a life that you really love.
Yeah, so you can expect on this podcast to hear tools and battle-tested tricks and tips that we have used in our own life and the clients that we coach, and we're excited to bring those to you here in this space.
Let's get into it. Do you ever feel like your brain is bogged down? Like there's this fog that just won't lift, and yet you also can't get your brain to stop? It's waking you up in the middle of the night with these doomsday scenarios around your career, or your finances, your relationships, your health. So you're exhausted and you're overusing caffeine to make it through the day, and then you're grabbing anything you can to numb out. At night, the things that used to bring you joy just aren't cutting it anymore. You feel disconnected from your life and from the people in your life. You feel trapped in this never-ending cycle of meaningless busyness and overwhelm. Sound like someone you know? Maybe it sounds like you. This is what we're finding as we work with our clients, that the symptoms and the consequences of mismanaged stress are like a fish swimming in water. We don't even realize we're dealing with it anymore. And we designed MINDBOX to help you combat that. We do that two ways. First, getting you effective tools that work in handling the stressors of everyday life. And second, helping you tackle the stories you have about yourself and the world that are actually our deepest sources of stress. Check out the information below on how to get started.
Welcome. We are here in our home studio.
Yeah, well, slash my office,
yes.
Slash our guest room.
This room pulls many hats.
This is the
pulls many hats, wears many
hats. This is the utility player of our house.
Some might call this a multi-purpose room.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're excited because we have our own space now to record these podcasts, and we're pumped about it.
And this is probably going to look different every week for the foreseeable future until we figure it out.
For sure. And obviously last week we talked about numbing and promised you part 2 on processing. We wanted to interrupt that flow. That episode will be coming to you next week because we just celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, and we have realized how much there has been seasons of our life where our marriage has led to a lot of stress.
Yep. As
we were growing and learning, and that still happens. Mm-hmm. And then how much getting in rhythm and learning some of the things we're going to talk about today has led to our marriage being a great source of fulfillment and joy. Our marriage really is a mirror of how we're relating to our lives.
Yeah.
And how we're learning and growing.
Yeah, relationships are our greatest mirror, especially our closest relationships.
Yep. Which hopefully your marriage is one of your closest.
I would hope it's your closest relationship.
Yep.
That's the goal.
Yeah. So in our 9 years of being married, we have learned a lot.
Yeah, we distilled all of that we have learned.
Yeah.
To 9 points to represent the 9 years.
Yeah.
And we wanted to share those with you today and really believe that this will be, hopefully bring some good tools to you whether or not you're in a relationship right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, should we jump in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so first one, I have my trusty iPad here that is so much bigger than it needs to be. But first one, be self-centered.
Yep.
So, most people hear that, and you've probably heard us talk about this concept before, but this has been a huge one for us that really I know I didn't understand when we first got married, is being self-centered is not the same thing as being selfish.
Yeah.
there's a huge difference.
Well, yeah, like being self-centered is centering yourself on the highest and best version of you. And
the things that bring out.
And the things that bring that out,
Yeah.
right? So it's not just, I think I know what the best version of me is. It's, can I identify the behaviors that I can do daily and throughout the day that bring that out of me?
Yeah.
Right? So like a go-to example for me is if I don't work out, I'm not the best person to be around.
You're not a great person.
Yeah, so even when we travel, we make sure that I get a workout in, whether that's a run or a ruck or I drop in a CrossFit gym.
Right.
Like,
there's a reason we invested in a home gym so that
it's
regardless
easier to work out.
If we have a crazy day, then we don't have to drive somewhere. It's already here.
Or I am pretty, well, and actually both of us are introverted extroverts.
Yeah.
And so
we're weird mixtures.
Yeah. So we both gotta have quiet time throughout the day, right? So I get quiet time, work out, eat food, generally before you've even woken up. And that's part of me staying self-centered.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is I used to do those things, but I wouldn't get up early enough.
Yeah.
And that is when it started to feel selfish. Is everybody's up and around and doing stuff, and then I'm up and I'm like, hey, I gotta go for a run, I need to eat, I need some quiet time, but everybody else's days have started. So part of me being self-centered is even when we travel, I'm generally the first one up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we actually will prepare when we're like visiting family. We'll just let them know, hey, or you usually have a conversation ahead of time. Hey, just so you know, I have my morning routine. I usually get up at around this time. If I don't interact a lot in the mornings, it's just I'm doing that, and then I'll be ready to go.
Yep. And these also work throughout the day, right? So when we're with family for long periods of time, or during our workday, I'll go run an errand.
Yeah.
And recharge that introvert cup. Where if I come off a long set of calls, I go out in the home gym and do a yoga flow or get in some extra movement, right? So be self-centered is, am I centering myself on the highest version of me and prioritizing the behaviors that bring that version of me around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Second one, clear is kind. This has been a massive one for me. This is a quote, if you haven't heard it before, this is a quote by Brene Brown. She's a phenomenal author and speaker, all the things. And this was a revolutionary concept for me and something that I did not do well when we first got married. I am someone that historically, I'm not a big fan of conflict. And I used to avoid it at all costs, especially between us. I found myself often placating, so if something bothered me or hurt my feelings, I would just kind of shove it down deep, to quote Moana. What does he say?
No, that's Central Intelligence.
Oh, that's right, The Rock.
I took all that trauma.
It was still Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, I took all that trauma, stuffed it into a ball, and shoved it way down deep.
Yeah. But I used to just try and ignore it and pretend that basically just tell myself that Ed's feelings on the matter or his point of view or opinion was more important than mine. And that is called placating. And it is actually being a victim. And that does not serve well in a marriage because it put you in super impossible situations.
Well, and I mean, even more so to tie it back to clear as kind, is you weren't telling me how you actually felt.
No, and I wasn't even articulating what you could do differently next time.
Yep.
Because I didn't even know how to articulate that for myself.
Yeah, so clear as kind is I am experiencing this way, and this is the story I'm telling myself, and we're not getting this right.
Yeah.
It's, hey, when you do that, it really bugs me.
Yeah.
This is what support and help would look like for me right now.
Right.
Right? Like.
Yeah, I remember one of the first conversations where I implemented this tool. I finally owned how you could best support me when I'm feeling jammed up emotionally. Because before, your personality is come at it with a hammer, let's fix it, let's get to the bottom of it. And for me, I need a little bit more softness and and questioning. And so I was able to articulate that to you the first time. And it wasn't like this magical, like, easy thing for you, but then it gave you a framework that you could start to practice and implement with me.
Yep.
So, clear as kind.
Do not assume your partner knows what you need.
No, do not. This is like the biggest trap that we fell into and that we see couples that we work with fall into, is that you think because you're so close to that person and you care about them so much and they know you so well, you also then think that they can read your mind or should be able to read your mind.
Yeah. This coming up for me, and then we still have 7 more.
I know.
So we got to speed up. But it kind of bugs me when that's not clear.
No.
When you do this, it frustrates me.
Right.
That is clear.
Yep.
Right?
Or it hurts me.
Or, when you do this, I write a story that you don't value me and that causes me pain.
Right.
Right? Because that's a whole nother talk.
I know. That's a whole episode in and of itself.
Yeah.
We can get into later.
Point number 3.
All right, 3. Go outside and play.
Yeah.
This is one of our faves.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we didn't do this well for a long time.
Yeah, it's really easy to end up being roommates.
Yeah. Well, and then especially for us, because we run
We've always worked together.
Yeah, we've always worked together, and now we run multiple businesses together. Man, we're good at serious time and like cranking out, getting stuff done.
Yeah. And then before you know it, that like play, adventure, fun, fulfillment side of your relationship that was part of what made dating so magical has completely gone by the wayside because that feels frivolous.
Yeah. Or unnecessary. Yeah. We're together all the time. Why do we need to plan this special outing? So
that's a whole interesting thought, that time is not the same as quality time.
No, it's
right?
Not. As a quality time person.
Yeah, which is something I've really had to learn because I'm not as much a quality time person.
Right.
So the way that we've intersected that is play. When we're out hanging out, having fun, like I'm getting to do something, which I'm realizing is very important for me.
Yeah, that's a way that you feel really connected.
Yeah, it's doing something together.
Yeah.
And then you're getting quality time. So win-win. Get outside and play.
Get outside and play.
The frivolous act of doing.
Just for the doing's sake.
Yep.
4, stay curious.
Yeah. One of the greatest gifts we give each other is assuming we don't know each other.
Yeah. Yeah, because if I am the same person that I was 9 years ago when I got married, something's probably wrong.
Well, yeah, and it's improbable that that's true.
Yeah.
Right? And we're both committed to growth because we're both being self-centered, right? So we're taking ourselves on, having these experiences, having new thoughts. So I'm going to assume that I don't know how you think or what the process you're taking on a specific thing.
Right.
And in doing that, now play that go back becomes even easier, right? Because we're constantly exploring and getting to know each other.
Right. It really is an adventure.
Yeah.
When you come at it from that way.
Yeah.
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 Because we're not only adventuring through life together, but we're also, it's an adventure to keep getting to know you.
Yeah, we're going to talk about, I'm sure we'll talk about the box at some point during the arc of this
100%.
podcast.
Yes.
But the box operates on this premise that I'm putting you in a box because I can pre-assume I know how you're going to respond in this scenario.
Because this is how you respond
in the past.
Yeah.
And when I put you in a box, I'm not interacting with you in this moment. I'm interacting with the story of you I've written in the past. The way we stay out of the box is to stay curious.
Yeah. So a phrase you'll hear us say often is don't pick up shame, pick up curiosity. So if there's something that you are working out together, don't pick up shame of like, I did this thing or I hurt him unintentionally. Stay curious even with yourself. Like stay curious with one another and stay curious with yourself.
Yep.
Those are key. 5, have a weekly meeting. This, I cannot overemphasize. This is something any couple we work with, this is one of the first things we talk to them about, because we have seen, for us personally and with any of the couples we've worked with, is that the number one thing that causes disagreements and frustrations in marriages is having to make decisions all the time in the height of the emotion. There is no like preparation because life gets fuller and gets busier and you have jobs and you add kids to the mix and you have hobbies and you have all of these things, and it is amazing. This was true for us. It's amazing how little we do to actually get ahead of those things and just talk about it for 30 minutes before the week starts and get on the same page.
If I don't set the context, it will be set for me.
Yes.
And often...
Every single time it will be set for me.
And often that leads to me feeling like life is sped up.
Yep.
Right?
You feel like you can never get a handle on anything.
We let the project management app that runs our businesses, we have a whole side of that runs our personal lives.
Yeah.
And there's all these tools we could go into with time management stuff that we won't. But
maybe on another episode.
Yeah, but the idea here is take 30 minutes at the beginning of your week and talk money, schedule, and the two of you.
Yes.
Are we good?
Right.
Are there any things lingering from last week that we haven't tackled? Right? Like, hey, I've noticed that this is starting to happen in the house. We had this conversation a couple weeks ago. As our businesses have gotten busier, the upkeep of the house was starting to lag.
Yeah.
And that, for me specifically, has a big impact on my ability to stay productive. Like, I can't do clutter.
Right.
We think I'm just easily distracted. Right? So then me coming to that meeting and going, hey, this isn't working for me. It's not something that was worth like bringing a bunch of energy into midweek. It's something that we can correct. And then as we're looking at our schedule, it's, hey,
plan out.
Let's make sure that this is happening throughout the week.
Well, and to go with the weekly meeting, make this easy. Like there's so many couples that I just don't have time. We never have time to keep the house clean. Take literally 20 minutes before you go to bed at night and just reset.
That's a cool habit we've developed.
Yeah. That will like change your life.
Wake up to a clean house.
If you want to know more about the process of the weekly meeting, reach out. We'll tell you. Maybe we'll break it down in another episode. 6, keep your word.
Yeah.
This is a big one.
Yeah, to yourself and to each other.
That concept, because it's easy to conceptualize, well, of course, I need to keep my word to my partner, right? Mm-hmm. It is very easy to lose sight of that in regards to me. And it's actually this has been a huge, I feel like, growth between us for all of the progress that you've made in your health and body transformation in the last several years. Like, for me to be able to watch you as your wife keep your word to yourself and honor the commitments and the goals that you set out to create has increased my trust in you. Mm-hmm. So that's what's interesting, is it can feel like, well, that doesn't really matter for my spouse, when in reality it has such a massive impact when you're seeing your spouse keep their word to themselves.
Yeah, I learned this phrase at a Rise Up Kings event, the coaching ecosystem I'm a part of, where allow your word to shape you.
Yeah. Right?
So when I say I'm going to do something, inevitably there will come a point where I don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, my word either shapes me and makes me better, or I overcome my word and I get sloppy, right? And I think what you identified is important, especially for husbands, boyfriends, to wives, girlfriends, is this idea of like, you trust that I'm going to do the hard. We're actively scaling our businesses right now. And there's components of sales that we're stepping into that has historically made me feel really uncomfortable.
Well, and it's just
getting better at it.
We haven't stepped into this space before.
So, but all that to say, because you've seen me keep my word in other areas, you know I'm going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because we'll talk to couples and they're like, well, he doesn't trust me, or she doesn't trust me. And then we start asking, well, do you keep your word? And then pretty quickly the frustrated spouse can be, you said you were going to do this and that didn't happen. You said you were going to do this and that didn't happen.
Which is hard feedback to take.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that is a quick bringer of shame, right? Like, that's a strong mirror to you that is hard to grapple with. And if we're not honest, again, going back to clear as kind, if we can't be clear about that, then we can't move forward from it.
Yep. Yeah, so keep your word.
Keep your word. 7, live a life worth talking about.
Yeah, that goes into the adventure thing too.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't want... There was a season where it felt like we were becoming roommates that had occasional sex. Yeah.
And just going through the motions of life, right? Like, we would go to work, we would come home, we would, like, veg, we would, it's not like we didn't ever do fun things, but we definitely were not intentionally creating the life that we we're living.
Yeah, we had a moment, we were in Arizona a couple weeks ago. We had this run that was really fun. We were in Arizona.
Which, like, I never thought that I would say those words together.
Yeah.
Like, we did a run while we were on vacation.
Yeah.
And
well, we woke up. Yeah, we woke up when
we did multiple runs.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking of specifically is we woke up the day we were going to fly home, and we flew out in the afternoon, and we found this random trail.
Right.
And went and ran it through the heart of downtown Phoenix, and then ended up at a farmer's market with this super cool coffee shop.
Yeah.
And
all these unexpected things.
All these unexpected and
beautiful homes. Like, it was just really fun.
And then we were home for like 4 or 5 days, and then drove to Bend, Oregon to do my powerlifting comp and your trail running with like our friends that were there, and we're living a life that we're enjoying talking about.
Right.
Like,
it's actually worth sharing. Like,
for our anniversary, we went up into the mountains and cooked steak on a tree stump, and then I fly fished.
We actually tried to record this podcast out there, but we kept getting rained out.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is it's not even this injection of cash to create these extravagant moments. Mm-hmm. It's what could we go do that is intriguing to us, that would be fun.
Right. Yeah. That we love even talking about and reliving the memories for. Yeah. All right, 2 left. 8, go to sleep.
If you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, it is not the time to have a conversation.
No.
That's what go to sleep.
Not an in-depth one.
That's what go to sleep represents.
For us, yeah.
For us.
I mean, there's so many, we joke about this often with couples we work with, but we established a rule early on in our marriage after some pretty intense arguments. Sunday used to be a full work day for us, and it was a lot of people. And so we would reach the end of that day and be totally wiped, and then couldn't figure out why that was always the time where we would argue on our way home, because we were exhausted. We, all of our extrovert was gone by then.
We were
hungry. So we just established a rule, like, we do not have any conversations until we've gotten home, gotten changed, ate food, and have like a reset a little bit.
Yeah.
And that solved a lot of problems for us.
Yeah. It is incredible what happens when I get some space from a thing that feels all consuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a saying, at least I grew up hearing this saying, like, don't ever go to bed angry. And there's some truth to that, right? But there's also times where a problem becomes much less charged if you can just go to sleep and wake up refreshed and be able to finish out the conversation that needs to be finished.
Ultimately have some time to ruminate on it.
Right.
Right?
Process.
If we have found ourselves in arguments before where the same point, neither of us are moving off of a point.
Right.
Which means we're no longer seeing it objectively.
No, we're just
And so even we'll say, all right, I'm going to go for a walk and you're going to go for a walk or whatever, and we're going to come back in an hour and try this again.
Yeah.
Or come back in a couple hours and try it again. Space. Sometimes sleep just literally represents space from something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, last one. This is a big one. The little things matter.
Yep.
A lot.
Yep.
I almost brought this one up when we were talking about keeping your word, because this really rings true in that area. Like, if you're only keeping your word in the big things and you're telling yourself, like, oh, I told my spouse that I would pick this up after work, or I would take care of the dishes or whatever, and then those are the things that you're constantly just kind of like overlooking, or, this, I will own this. This was an area that I didn't realize, just because I see things differently, especially like when we're in our work mode. I don't really see, like, I get pretty tunnel vision. You
don't get pretty tunnel vision.
Listen, I'm owning it.
I woke up the other day you had like gone into an Asana K-hole, and there was just 97 project management things showing up on my phone. Like, yeah, you are the queen. Our VA literally noticed it. She's like, what happened?
But all of that to say, I get pretty tunnel visioned when I'm in work mode, and so there's just things that I don't see. It's like Ed will come into my office and my lunch bowl is still sitting on my desk because I haven't like gotten up to go put it in the dishwasher yet, and he's like, how can you keep working? And it's just like, I don't see it. But for him, that was a big area for us of like not leaving, like not making food and then not fully refreshing the kitchen when I was done. Like that was something that he had asked me, hey, this really bothers me. Like that was, we used clear as kind, right? Like he was upfront about how that affected him. And then there would still be times, I'm sure there still is now, we're always growing, right? Where I just wouldn't see it until later and then realized, shoot, that's me not keeping my word and also forgetting that the little things really matter.
Well, yeah, because the principle here is it's the little things that build relationships.
Yeah.
Like when you think about your friends that you fell in love with in elementary school, they saved a spot for you at lunch and they picked you for their kickball team and they remembered when your grandma died and they celebrated your birthday.
Yeah.
What we have found is when I do the extravagant stuff, like show up with flowers on a card,
yeah,
but I'm not doing the little things, the extravagant thing actually hurts.
Yeah, it kind of feels like salt.
It feels disingenuous. Yeah, salt in a wound. When I'm doing the little things and then I do the extravagant thing, it supercharges it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've worked with a lot of husbands where like they're working long hours, they're grinding, they have this thing they're aiming towards, and it's like, but I took everyone out to dinner. And I was like, yeah, but they want you home when you said you would be. Like that's the little thing that doesn't feel like a big deal, right? Like,
but that really
you tell the wife and kids like I'm going to be home at 5, but you're consistently home at 6. Like that's the little stuff that adds up. That when you're sitting there at this extravagant dinner, it feels like you're trying to buy them. Right. It doesn't feel authentic.
Yeah.
So when I'm consistent in the little things, the extravagant thing supercharges trust and builds intimacy. When I'm inconsistent in the little things, the extravagant thing points out the little stuff that's not happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are our 9 lessons that we had to share from you, or for you, to you. There it is, with you. Thank you so much for tuning into this special episode of Train Your Brain today, and we would love to hear comments. If any of these 9 stand out to you and you're like, man, I really need to know more about that, let us know in the comments and we will incorporate that into future episodes. And join us next week for part 2 of last week's episode on Numb and Out. We're going to talk all about processing and give you the tools you need to process the stressors that are coming at you effectively so that you do not feel taken out in your life.
Talk to you next week.